Picture Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, not just as sound waves, but as a visual tapestry painting the dusk. That's synesthesia, a world where senses mingle in a high-fidelity remix of experiences.
The Synesthetic Canvas, crafting a multi-sensory mixtape.
Synesthesia. It's a rare phenomena where one sensory experience involuntarily triggers another, like tasting music or seeing sounds. It's a vivid reminder that our brains are super complex and creativity isn't confined to one sense alone. And while very few of us have actual synesthesia, we can all embrace our spirit to blend our senses and discipline into something extraordinary. We might say that design synesthesia is more than a condition. It's a creative force. So what happens when your senses collaborate like artists in a studio, blending disciplines into something extraordinary? In my space, when I grab a guitar and start playing, the chords crash into pixels. It's not just sound meeting sight, it's a multi-sensory mixtape coming to life. Maybe you get visuals in your head when you hear something. For me, I have whole music videos play out, and it helps me when I design. I have a series of design rules I've come up with over the years, sort of like Charlie Munger's mental models that guide how I create. One of the ones I use and encourage other designers to use is sort of synesthetic. I want them to take inspiration from something different than what they're designing. When you're making a motion design piece, you really shouldn't be inspired by other motion design. Illustration shouldn't be inspired by other illustration. When you do, you end up leaving too much of the original DNA in it. But if your brain translates, there's a filter, and that sound can get turned into visuals. It's a new thing. It's like Girl Talk or the Avalanches taking their sample-driven music and making films or gourmet meals instead. It's really how I design. I look for the spark and things that drive my own visual mixtapes. Well before Everything's a Remix came to life on YouTube, Nick Hornby wrote about the music-obsessed nerds at Championship Vinyl in his book High Fidelity. My favorite bit of mixtape media. The DNA of the story was so strong that it's translated mostly successfully into multiple formats. First as a book, then as a movie, then as a pretty disastrous musical, and finally as a too shortly lived gender-bent TV adaptation. For what it's worth, the TV version's great. The one consistent thread throughout all of the remixes was Rob's very precise rules for assembling a mixtape. You know, his lists may be the core of these video lists. So, channeling the spirit of High Fidelity, here are the top 5 mixtape rules for synesthetic experience. Number 1.
Contrasting beats.
Sync up the systematic with the spontaneous. Let the logic of coding flow with the freeform of jazz. Number 2.
Genrebending.
If you're a writer, let your words dance on canvas. A dancer, carve your rhythm into sculpture. Number 3.
Full sensory playback.
Immersing your craft with all senses on deck. Every project is an album of flavors, textures, and visuals. Number 4.
Hidden tracks.
Every skill has its deep cuts. Explore them for the lesser known but soul-stirring creations. 5.
Acoustic sessions.
Sometimes unplugged and unedited is where the magic happens. Let those raw, candid moments of inspiration play out. So here's your challenge and question for the day. More than anything, like when we talked last week about learning how to fly, you have to let go. Feel the decision more than make the decision. It might take time, but once you figure it out, you'll never let it go. So what's your synesthetic creation that defies genre? Share your stories where senses converged and creativity soared. Together, maybe we can create a playlist where every track is an unexpected hit. As always, see beneath the surface. We'll be back tomorrow, and never forget,
There is no system.